Okay, fire escape engineers. This is some training of the one of the representatives of the buildings. We're here at what's the address here?
325 Houston, East Houston.
325 East Housing. Houston. And what we're going to do is we're going to look over. There's a fire escape here on the back side that we're going to talk about. There's a blue fire escape over there that we can talk about. And there's a brown fire escape over here. As well as if you come over here, CJ, these are the hidden situations in that some buildings actually have three. So this one has a front one, a back one, and one tucked into the corner. Okay? Now, what we're going to be talking about is showing you exactly what an inspection entails and why we do such things. So, the first thing that we have to do is must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So let's just talk about paint job. Do you think that this fire escape has been painted?
Probably not.
But is there more rust than paint or more paint than rust? Forget about the bird poo. Does it look like there's more rust? Concentrate on this up here. More rust than paint or more paint than rust?
More paint than rust.
More paint than rust. So you've passed half the requirements.
Okay.
So you're not forced to paint everything into a pristine condition. It just has to have more paint than rust. Okay. So this one passes. Even though we got a lot of pigeon poo on it,
yeah, that's
another matter that we're going to discuss. So this one over here, we're really going to look at minimally just structural repairs of some kind that we're going to need. Okay? So with that, we're going to look at, and let's stay on this one. Do you see some cement issues right there? Right? It's pulling out of the building right there. So that means that when the firemen come climbing up this thing, or people are climbing up this thing, if they think that's their only way out without going down, this ladder is actually loose. This ladder actually comes up and over and it's tied into the building. This is mainly used for firemen. I'm looking for evidence of new bolts, and I see some new bolts here. So somebody came in here, and these are called hex heads. So if I can see hex heads throughout the fire escape, and I usually find them in corners, or I find them at the bottom of the ladders, or I find them somewhere on the treads. Do you see any hex heads other than these right up here, just with the naked eye? Okay, very good point. You've got a hex head there. Do you see the rust still in the connection? A little bit of rust in that connection? So somebody changed the bolt, but did they clean out the original reason why it was failing? So even though somebody's got a bolt in there, the rust is still eating that new bolt, so that bolt is compromised. I can't sign off on that bolt because they didn't remove the rust. So, see all the square head bolts down there? Those are all 50 to 75 years old. And you have to rely on a 50 to 75-year-old bolt that by now, usually 50 to 75 years later, some of the superstructure has been changed out. And you should be seeing some hex head bolts throughout. Do you see any hex head bolts anywhere on this platform? Right, let's look over here. Let's see if these. We do see a lot of pigeon poo on that one, right? So let's take a look at this blue one right off the bat here. See some hex heads on that one? Instead of squares, you see hex heads?
Yeah.
So somebody's been refurbishing this fire escape because I can see, no matter how old that fire escape is, I got new looking bolts on there, don't you? So that's pretty evident in the corners. See hex heads down there? See hex heads on the support? Great. Okay. Oh, actually, if you look straight down, you see some squares further down on the backside that weren't changed out. But it's hard to see. Why don't you come over here, though? Do you see any hex heads on there, or mainly squares on those?
Looks like those squares.
Right, so that's original hardware. So somebody's been painting those, but nobody's been doing any general maintenance to the major structural. The major structural is the supports that hold platforms and the stairs that hold the people going down the stairs. So if you're going to get hurt anytime, you're going to get hurt because a platform won't hold you, or you're going to get hurt going downstairs because some bolts let go. That's the major structural. You see the corner of this rail and the other corner of the rail? Yeah. If anything's ever going to let go, they're going to let go at corners. They don't let go in the middle anyway. Right. So do you see any evidence of any new bolts? I'm actually seeing bolts missing in some of those corners, right? But you see any evidence of any new bolts from the naked eye? Okay. I mean, if we have binoculars, we'd even get better. But let's take a look at this one. Let's take a look at this blue one over here. And the bolts on the treads, those look original or they look switched out? They look square?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's take a look at the supports and the platform corners. They look square on the corners, or they look like hex heads?
Obvious.
Right, it's hard, but they look
yeah.
square. They're
Yeah.
squarish, okay?
Uh-huh.
Now let's look over this railing here. The bottom of this ladder
Right.
and the ladder itself. You see that bolt right there? Is that a square bolt? So up here, if you could look up here, is this hex head or square?
Those are hex heads.
So somebody came up here and did something up here.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as you go up and over, and you look at this first one connection right here,
Yeah. That's
hex
a square
or
head.
square?
Square head.
And at the bottom feet, hex or squares?
Square.
At the corners, do you see any evidence of any new bolting at any of these connections?
No.
So, but how about the paint job? Why don't you take a look at the paint job? More paint than rust or more rust than paint?
It's more paint than rust.
So on this one, you don't have to paint this one.
Uh-huh.
Just do the structural work, spot paint some of your work, and this thing will pass an inspection. This one, the recommendation is to paint, but it's not a requirement at this time.
Right.
So, but as soon as you keep going to all these, this one with all the pigeon poo,
Uh-huh.
CJ. This one, once you start power washing this, and by the way, the only people that can come and touch this fire escape is not the painters. You have to send these guys that wear a special suit. There's like 5,000 known bio sickness thing from pigeons
Yeah.
that you do not send just anybody on that, because if they get sick, you're liable for
Okay.
it. So you send these guys that they power wash the pigeon poo. Because as soon as you power wash all this pigeon poo, that pigeon poo is very acidic and ate through the paint already.
Yeah.
You can't see it. So this one is going to need a paint job, even though it's got more paint than rust. As soon as you remove and power wash the poo away,
Yeah.
I'm going to have exposed metal.
Mm-hmm.
So this one not only needs structural repair, it needs a paint job. But from this advantage, can you see anywhere, even on the stairs going down? Do you see any hex head bolts on the stairs going down? On this first set of stairs, you see any hex heads?
No, they don't look like that.
So it's all original hardware. So this is 50 to 75 years old.
Yeah.
They've just been painting it over time, and any one of those could give way at any time when you're walking up or walking down. But which one? Do you know which one?
No.
Nobody does. And you're asking somebody to sign off on an unknown. So on all my treads, if I investigate a stair tread and I got beautiful square head bolts that are 50 to 75 years old, but I don't know, but there's no rust in some, and they just look spectacular. I can't sign off on it, but what I can do is reinforce it with a new bolt. So as soon as I drill a hole in the middle of the two, and I put a new bolt, now I can sign off on it because I'm backed it up.
Okay.
If it's faster for me to cut one of the bolts, I'll cut the bolts out with a grinder and put in brand new bolts. Even though they look good, they're still 50 to 75 years old. But as soon as I put a brand new bolt in today, who's taking responsibility for that bolt? The company that sold me that bolt. So if that bolt ever gives way from now till the near future, you guys don't sue me, you sue the bolt. The company of the bolt, you understand? So this is the kind of inspection that you would get. We would walk through and we would photograph. On this fire escape, typically we'd come out with 50 to 75 photographs.
Okay.
We do a visual walkthrough with a video camera that starts at the top, and as we walk down, we sort of walk down slowly, but towards the end, when we start repeating ourselves, we walk fast. Or we basically, once we've covered enough of the simple problem, then we tell you percentages. 100% of the treads need to be rebolted. 25% of the cement packed supports need to be repacked. 50% of the rails need the corners redone. We just do percentages for you.
Okay.
That way you have enough information so that when you get 3 to 5 other vendors here, they already have, at their office, they already watched the video.
Right.
And that way they'll decide whether or not they want to do this job or not. So that's what it's, so the initial step is pass, fail, general information, so we can start setting up the bid process. Okay? Any questions about what we were talking about here?
No.